per risorgere con Lui. Aspergiamo il corpo del nostro Papa Francesco. Rendiamo grazie a Dio.
The Vatican released the first visuals of Pope Francis following his death, showing him in a wooden coffin, wearing a red robe with the papal mitre on his head and a rosary intertwined in his hands. As church officials performed the formal confirmation of the Pope's death and prayed over his body, the Vatican announced that his funeral will take place on the 26th of April. Pope Francis's body currently lies in the chapel of the Santa Marta residence, where he lived during his 12-year papacy. His body will be transferred from Santa Marta to St. Peter's Basilica in a procession on the 23rd of April. Ahead of the transfer, a moment of prayer will be led by Cardinal Kevin Farrell, who is acting as the Carmelengo, the person who runs the Vatican after the death or the resignation of a pope. Cardinal Farrell will then lead the procession to St. Peter's Square before entering the church through the central doors. After entering the church, Cardinal Farrell will lead the Liturgy of the Word before the church is open to visitors to pay their respects. The general public will be able to visit the church from 11 a.m. to midnight on Wednesday, from 7 a.m. to midnight on Thursday, and from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday. At Pope Francis's request, there will be no private viewing for the cardinals. The Pope's coffin will also not be raised on a pedestal. The night before Pope Francis's funeral, the Carmelengo and senior cardinals seal the coffin, placing a white cloth over his face. Inside, a bag of coins minted during his papacy and a written record of his papacy are included. This document, called a rogito, is read aloud before being sealed in a tube and placed inside the coffin. Francis's papal coat of arms and a cross are inscribed on the coffin, with his coat of arms featuring the Jesuit monogram and a Latin phrase which translates to "having had mercy, he called him." The Pope's funeral will take place in the square in front of St. Peter's Basilica on the 26th of April, starting 10 a.m. local time. The service will be led by the Dean of the College of Cardinals, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re. Patriarchs, cardinals, archbishops, bishops and priests from across the globe will take part. Heads of state and royalty will travel to Italy for the event. Among those who have already announced their attendance are US President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron. The service will end with the final commendation and valediction, marking the beginning of 9 days of mourning for the Pope. The Pontiff's body will then be taken inside the church before being transported to St. Mary Major Basilica in Rome for the burial. Unlike his predecessors, Pope Francis chose to scale back some of the funeral pomp and ceremony. Last year, he had requested to be buried at St. Mary Major rather than in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica, making him the first pope not to be buried in the Vatican for more than a century. He also requested to be buried in a single wooden casket, unlike previous popes who were buried in the traditional three-nested coffins.